Weekend is the first wave of payments, but the White House expects the rest to be rolled out in the next several weeks. The checks will be $1,400 for individual taxpayers making up to $75,000 a year, and couples filing jointly making up to $150,000 will get a $2,800 check. There'll also be $1,400 tacked on for each dependent in the house. Hopefully the IRS...
There's some urgent news around the fourth stimulus check, and here it is. Congress has released big news. It's very important that you guys know the time is actually running out for Democrats and the Republicans to reach a deal just before the government shut down. It's because this may affect millions of you guys on Social Security and SNAP beneficiaries. There are important details to cover, so you be sure to watch until the end of the video to get the most up-to-date stimulus news. Chuck Schumer is working with his Republicans on a year-long government funding bill in hopes of passing it before the next Congress. This week, Schumer told reporters that negotiations were ongoing, despite some strong disagreement among Republicans and Democrats over funding priorities. McConnell said this, and Schumer stated, "Senator McConnell and I have agreed to try and work together to make sure we get a year-long funding bill done, and we hope we can get it done by the end of this year, and we know that each side is going to have to give in order to get the spending bill to the president's desk, and it needs 60 votes for people to get the stimulus money that everybody needs." So, Schumer's comments come shortly after congressional leaders from both parties met with Joe Biden at the White House to discuss the political agenda between now and January. In the lame duck session, lawmakers are eyeing up several major pieces of legislation. They have topped the to-do list though. It's a government funding bill. Congress must pass a government funding bill by December 16th or face a partial federal shutdown. Democrats want a year-long budget deal that would fund the government until the fall of 2023, which will allow the Biden administration to fund pet initiatives and limit the influence of Republicans, who are in the minority in both the House and Senate. McConnell told reporters that there was a broad desire among Republicans for a year-long budget deal. However, the minority leader said there were still large obstacles to overcome. Republicans want to boost defense spending, while Democrats are aiming for larger, non-increasing in defense spending. GOP senators said that at the very least, Democrats should agree to a parity in domestic and defense spending. But McConnell added that reporters today stop a stopgap funding deal that would fund the government until January, and it might be necessary as talks on the long-term spending package drag on. Mitch McConnell said this, folks, on the stimulus bill. "We have not been able to agree on a top line yet, and I think it's becoming increasingly likely that we might need to do a short-term continuing resolution into early next year. We are running out of time, and that might be the only option that we have to agree on." McConnell also added, the comments come after a day after House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy and Mitch McConnell and other Republicans said that they're avoiding striking a deal on the spending package because they want the Democrats to send out more stimulus by next year. So this year, many people have had to dip into their savings account over and over again just to deal with higher bills. And some have even landed in credit card debt as a result of their bills climbing and their paychecks falling short. But this month in December, the Walmart CEO shared some good news about inflation. He said on CNBC that inflation levels are falling with regard to discretionary merchandise like apparel, sporting goods, and toys in October. The Consumer Price Index, which measures changes in the cost of consumer goods, rose 7.7% on an annual basis. But that month, toy prices were only up 3.1%, sporting goods were up 3%, and apparel was only up 4%. A drop in inflation, however, across these categories couldn't have happened at a better time, because according to CNBC, these days consumers are hitting the stores in droves in an attempt to purchase the holiday gifts that they need. And if they're able to spend less in these specific categories, well, it can help minimize the holiday debt they incur. So, inflation levels, folks, may be dropping in certain spending categories. That's great, but it's not all. The cost of living is still very high compared to what it was 2 years ago, and it can still take quite a bit of time before inflation settles down and before President Biden gets that stimulus bill sent out in time. Folks, tell me in the comments down below if you think that President Biden must do more for the fourth stimulus checks to be approved.
71 are women, 75%. 65 are people of color, almost 70%. 45 are women of color, nearly 50%. And 23 are black women, nearly 25%. We've never seen a class of new judges that brings so much diversity, variety, and dynamism in a single 2-year stretch. And of course, it's not just the diversity of demography that matters. In the last 2 years, the Senate's confirmed more civil rights lawyers, public defenders, election attorneys, immigration lawyers than we typically see in this chamber. It's a big reason today why our courts are more balanced and more dynamic and more experienced than they were 2 years ago. You can be sure, Madam President, that judges will remain a top priority in the Congress to come. More judges mean a more balanced judiciary, and a more balanced judiciary will mean greater trust in our courts in the long run, so important for our country at this moment in time, because the MAGA Supreme Court and so many of these other MAGA judges have caused people to lose faith in the courts. On the Omni, as we keep working on confirming more judges and advancing the defense authorization bill, both sides also continue not negotiating a deal for a year-long omnibus. Over the weekend, appropriators held positive and productive conversations, enough that both sides are moving forward in good faith.
The highest in more than 40 years. The Senior Citizens League updated its 2023 COLA estimate to 8.6%, somewhat lower than last month's 8.9%. The update came after the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics issued its latest Consumer Price Index report. And Mary Johnson, the Senior Citizens League policy analyst, told reporters that Social Security COLA is calculated by using the average rate of inflation in the third quarter of the year. When those figures come out, the data for July, August, and September will be added together and divided by 3 to get the average. The 2022 number will then be compared with the third quarter average of 2021 to determine the percentage of change for 2023 COLA. And there's still plenty of time for the U.S. inflation rate to change by the third quarter. But it has become increasingly doubtful that it will get anywhere near the rate the Federal Reserve hopes to achieve through its series of interest rate hikes. Hopes that inflation will drop considerably in the coming months have all but evaporated. It is likely that the 2023 COLA will be the highest in decades. Some seniors and experts believe the COLA for 2023 could be in the 9% range, which would be the biggest increase since 1981, when the COLA was only 11.2%. But there's no guarantee that the COLA will offset inflation. This year's COLA, which is based on inflation figures from 2021, is only 5.9%, well below the current rate of inflation. And U.S. Representative Peter DeFazio and Bernie Sanders introduced the Social Security Expansion Act in both houses of the U.S. Congress. This bill seeks to keep Social Security solvent through 2096, but it goes beyond that, just keeping the program going. The proposed bill would benefit for current and new Social Security beneficiaries by about $200 a month or $2,400 a year. Individuals would not have to wait until their full retirement age under the bill. Either, anyone who turns 62 will be eligible for the increase. In addition, DeFazio and Sanders want to increase Social Security's COLA, and they propose changing a formula used to calculate the COLA amounts by using the CPI for the elderly, which factors in seniors' healthcare costs.
Today and a busy day for a lot of people, and Senator and Chair Powell, thank you. I have a series of questions. I have not asked my questions. I was saving them for last. But then after my questions, we'll adjourn. You've said that Russia's and aggression in Ukraine, port congestion and COVID lockdowns in China especially have